MAME phase.
Good evening everybody, and welcome to the second part of my 2021 MAME recap streams, where we'll be looking at progress that has appeared in MAME builds from the last 12 months. So anything from the start of the year up until the one that will inevitably be released at the end of the year. I'd like to say hello to everybody in the chat, so let's just scroll back a little bit. We've got Carlo, we've got Lo-Fi Kills, we've got Dylan, who I believe is new here, at least I don't recall seeing the name, so welcome to you. We've got Guru, we've got Gangra, one of the Amstream regulars rather than one of my regulars, but always good to see you, Gangra. Welcome, welcome. We've got R09, we've got Mo Burma, we've got my other half Evie, and we've got Bob, and Bob has provided the Christmas music we'll be hearing a bit later on in a NES cartridge, so that'll be fun, won't it? We've also got the Ogre, and yes, we're starting with Mermaid, the Ogre, because Mermaid is probably one of the improvements I enjoyed seeing most over the year. A classic and often overlooked game that has a few interesting graphical effects and its kind of own unique take on the whole river patrol, the bounty formula. So I've played it a few times, but any excuse to play it again really, so let's change the view to the horizontal one. Let's full screen this, and let's hope my volume levels are correct. Yeah, it seems alright. So yes, now this is one where for the entire time before this year there was a missing video effect, which we have seen in the track mode. So if you've been paying attention before the stream started, you'll see what this one's all about. But yeah, you're guiding your little yacht between the rocks, through the flags, a bit like the skiing type events too in some senses. But you have good control. Now you can only move in the direction your sail is pointing. You have to flip the sail to change direction. But the sail also catches wind, so positioning your sail is an important part of the gameplay here. Yes, happy holidays to everybody. I don't know if I'll be streaming again before Christmas, but if I don't, then yes, happy holidays. It is that time of year, and yeah, again, why I really wanted to do these yearly recaps. Oh, I missed one of the sets of flags there. There we go, you see. This has got some nice sound design. It's got this really relaxed little tune while you're sailing, and then you've got the faster paced music when you're on that little bit of a wave there, pushing you forwards. And it's just, I just really like it as a game. It's not doing anything special. That was a bit silly of me. But yeah, I mean, it's one I didn't realise until it was reported during the year that there was even a missing graphical effect. We knew there were some issues with the collisions, which there may still be. It might still not be perfectly emulated. But we'll get to the graphical effects soon, which does match how it looks on hardware. I've taken this silly route again, haven't I? So yeah, the levels aren't random, but yeah. Let's go. Off to the goal. And the water is on fire. It's magical fire. Yeah, so the boat is called the Mermaid, which is where the name of the game comes from. It's known as Yachtsman in other regions. And this version's licensed by... So you get blown around by the wind if your sail's facing the wind, which you can use to your advantage to, move about more quickly, or you have to be defensive over if you don't want to blow into obstacles. So again, it's an extra little gameplay feature, which not every game like this has. There we go, extra speed too. So the effect should be coming up now. The blue border is a bit of indication, but we're in this section, and so you've got this lighthouse effect, so you have to pay attention to where things are so you don't crash into them. It's sort of a memorization of the layout when you can see it, and positioning yourself which is why during these sections there aren't as many rocks to avoid, because they sort of acknowledge that it would be much more difficult if there was too much to avoid. I knew that was going to happen. I knew I hadn't positioned myself quite far enough to the left. Now you do continue from the same stage, so... yeah, this is the effect that was missing, and it's got dedicated hardware designed to do this effect. You know, it can blank out different parts of the layers by writing to, well, parts of the screen near the edge. It's quite funky the way they've implemented it. There we go. Survived that bit. Extreme Rack, welcome, I hope you're doing well. Are the in-game dolphins emulated yet? I don't believe we have any extra dolphins. Now you can also get knocked off your boat like that, and then you have to swim back to it. But you have to swim back to it. You have to get in the correct side, so you can't get in where the sail is. But, yes, they were coming for you there. Now, I don't think there's any advantage to getting knocked off your boat. It just means that if you do, you've got a little chance of recovering. But it's not this stage where there are still some issues. Although, you see that that wave behind the rank 10 there, that probably needs to be clipped out. That shouldn't really happen. I'm assuming maybe sprites aren't meant to be able to appear in that area of the screen or something like that. The problem is with a lot of this hardware there are just little custom circuits that clip out things in certain areas and do this and do that, and yeah. 2 AY3s, yeah. They made a nice melody out of it, haven't they? So, we'll play this a little bit more. So this is where the wind can help you get across more quickly if you need to. There we go, you see. Get all the way up here to this 600 pointer. Not getting to the 800 pointer though. Nice little jet stream type thing here. Yeah, this I think is an incredibly underrated game, and not one anybody ever really talks about. Probably not one that was even incredibly popular back in the day. Sanritsu weren't the biggest developer. I had to look at some other Sanritsu games over the course of the streams as well. We had to look at Dream Shopper, which was Sanritsu, which apparently is still not properly emulated. Now I think it's these things where they're meant to animate, but they don't. They're meant to be diving in and out of the water and over the rocks, and that still doesn't work. They sort of always get stuck in this one frame of animation. So we still don't know why that bit doesn't work. Always things to discover with these, but that probably made that section a bit easier than it should have been. Tune a bit hypnotic, it's nice. Yeah, it's exactly the type of music you'd want to go sailing to. Sort of jolly little swim along the river. My final standing was that. So, I'll keep going for a little bit on this one. Don't spend too long on it. We spent 10 minutes on it. There we go. So as you can see, you get more obstacles, more things to avoid as you progress. It makes it slightly trickier. It does have hardware collisions and the like, which could be where the other enemy type fails. If it thinks it's always collided or isn't in line with the player, it might not be doing the correct animations. You recall that Nichibutsu made a Laserdisc driving game. Oh, I mean, I don't know that much about the Laserdisc myself. I know Sega did a Laserdisc driver game, didn't they, where they speed up the video footage, but I can't think of an Itsubutsu one off the top of my head. Hey Devin, welcome. I hope you're doing well. Devin has been emulating things like Casio keyboards. Oh dear. And we featured one of those on the previous stream. We won't be looking at the Casio keyboard again today because we looked at it last time. But we may look at one of the other things Devin contributed if we get time, which was a Pac-Man theme thing. Anyway, that was Mermaid, and yeah, that's one of the fixes I enjoyed seeing most over the year because it's such a a unique little game with its own charm, and tends to be overlooked. And I look forward to maybe seeing more fixes of the remaining issues in it. Anyway, yeah, 1999 is very late for a Laserdisc game, very very late. You sure it was Laserdisc, not DVD? Itsubutsu were doing DVD-based games around that time. Anyway, as I mentioned, Bob has added some special NES cartridges to the software list. Now, these are from retroUSB. You can buy them on cartridges, and the physical cartridges have nice flashy lights on them. MAME doesn't emulate the flashy lights, unfortunately. But the games are in the software list, and yeah, I may get a claim on the music, so this might get muted. I don't care. So these are mostly little novelty type games. I mean, the idea is they're just sort of collectible cartridges rather than maybe being the highest quality games in the world. One of the other ones is a Dr. Mario rip-off, for example. Now, you can only move between the sticks in certain places, otherwise you'll fall down. Visually quite appealing with the stickman art. I don't actually know what I'm doing. I've never managed to... Oh, there we go, fallen off. You think you like the 2015 tunes? Yet. So I'd be very surprised if there were Laserdisc games from 1999, personally. I thought the technology had been, found to be totally unreliable and wouldn't be used, which is why Itsubutsu had switched to using even VHS and DVDs, and even video CDs. Laserdisc would be very out of place in '99. So you really have to learn your route through the levels here, I guess. Yes, a nice little chiptune rendition of a Christmas classic. You may look at one or two of the others later. You say 2015, so I may look at the 2015 one later. But the NES has a big homebrew scene, and this is just one of the many NES homebrews. There we go, got those. And get out there. Yeah, there are a few lost homebrews. People made them and sometimes protected them, and they didn't sell great numbers, and they're lost. I mean, are they even homebrews, or were they like early commercial releases? Not unlicensed commercial releases. Okay, how do I actually get out of that situation? There you go. A bit of a Christmassy one there. A Christmassy one that Bob added to the soft list. And if you do want the cartridges, there are plenty of them every Christmas by the looks of it. I'm assuming there's one from this year, unless I'm wrong. The game sucks on 2015. I can't remember. I did briefly load them all up and thought which one had the most interesting looking game and picked that one. The Dr. Mario one's not a bad implementation, but it's Dr. Mario, and there's already Dr. Mario on the NES, so I didn't really see the point. Right, shall we look at an arcade then? I think we should. Yeah. We should. So we looked at one of the Sun Electronic games that was added last stream. Another one was Runaway, which, as you can see, is really just very much like Head-On, the Sega game. And in fact, Sega did license out the concept to other manufacturers. So while this looks like it's sort of, you know, a bit of a rip-off of Head-On, it's an approved and licensed game. It plays slightly differently due to the character sizes and the speeds and everything else. We've got samples rather than discrete emulation at the moment, which was true for the Warp 1, the other Sun game too. I've never been very good at Head-On. But there we go. That's one maze done. And it gets a bit harder and it gets a bit faster and the enemies start leaving extra dots around to pick up and all sorts of nonsense. And they speed up after a while too. There you go, you see they've left some thicker dots which I think you score more points for or something. There you go, they've gone into turbo speed, which kills me off pretty quickly. Now, there's some controversy over if this game is called Runaway as one word or Runaway as two. I think it's in MAME as one word now, although the bottom of the screen clearly has it as 2 words, and I don't know. Not always easy to know for sure. Personally, I would have gone with what was on the screen, but it was decided to do otherwise. Homebrew games can be considered holy grails. I don't really know. I mean, depends what you consider in homebrew and what you consider limited run commercial. If you look at, say, the Amiga shareware scene, there are quite a lot of games where the registered versions have never shown up. Maybe nobody ever bought them, or maybe they never actually existed, and anybody who sent off for them got nothing. I really don't know. But plenty have not surfaced, so we're left with sort of, you know, the one-level shareware demos and the like. But I've done the same thing, exactly the same thing again. 2 words makes more sense to me too, but I guess though you are running towards the enemy, but that's just how Head-On works. And the argument was that you might be a runaway and the alien is trying to capture you, and, you know, take you back to where you're meant to be, but I don't know. But yeah, it's Head-On. If you know Head-On and you've played Head-On, you've basically played this. Failed. Now, unlike Pac-Man, the thing with Head-On is, or Runaway and Head-On, is that if you fail a level, you have to start the level over again, because all the dots respawn. But, you know, a lot of the so-called homebrew games these days are commercial releases. They might be released sort of 20 years after the computer was on the market, but they're still sold. The people that made them still don't want you pirating them. They'd rather you bought them. You have to consider that a lot of the licensing was just artificial market control. So does something being unlicensed make it any less of a game? I mean, a lot of the Codemasters and Electronic Arts games at first on the Mega Drive were not licensed. They were unlicensed games, effectively. It's not always the clearest definition. I mean, with some of these plug-and-plays, people have called them homebrew games, and they're not homebrew games. They might not all be, games that were commercially available on the NES, but they're still commercial games. You wish the colours curved with the game screen. Yeah, MAME doesn't curve the overlays, does it? Anyway, that was Runaway, or Run Away, and it was one of the additions from last year. One of, say, 2 Sun games that were added. The other I looked at on the previous stream. Okay, let's have a look at something that's kind of okay. Unfortunately, the disc image of this might be bad. This is a magnet system game, and this is Paris Dakar, the Spanish version. It's important to notice the Spanish version because it does ask you quiz questions between levels, which are in Spanish. So the sound balance is probably all wrong because it probably is. I don't know how the sounds will be balanced, and there might be some missing filters. And also the sound is kind of horrible. So let's just turn it down a little bit. Now this does have the option to use handlebar analog control in service mode. That's not mapped, that's not hooked up. And unfortunately the game also crashes when you complete the 6th stage, which might indicate the disc image is bad, although magnet system emulation is not perfect. You can also turn off the ability to jump in the stage using a button in service mode. Again, it's not really clear what the operator intended there, because it can make it a bit easier, but it only applies to this stage, or these into the screen stages like this on this kind of course, where you can jump if you hit the logs anyway. Again, it sort of feels like they're experimenting with an idea and didn't know if to leave it as a feature or not. Yeah, it's basically a really quite janky enduro racer type affair, at least on this stage. It does have like at least 3 different stage types. There could even be a 4th, which might be where it crashes. What is happening in the background? I don't know. There's quite a few magnet system games that have very interesting background colour choices. I think it must be what the artist enjoyed. Come on, I finished this. The counter's 0. There we go. Now some of the stages also finish before the counter hits 0, which again could be just how it's programmed. It could be due to floppy disk issues. The issue with the magnet system is, so it was on floppy disk, and they used custom format floppy disks, and they ran the drive at a non-standard clock to try and get more data on the disks. And of course that just makes them even more unreliable because you lose some of the redundancy, and yeah, the discs haven't exactly been well stored. Spain is quite a hot country at times, yeah, so you get the idea. Any of these that turn up are pretty much a miracle. And obviously not many arcades kept them in operation for very long because, well, they're not great. But they are interesting pieces of programming, especially the unique games, because there's a lot of just bootlegs on the hardware, which they were claiming were licensed, but clearly weren't. So here you go. Yes, your quiz question is in Spanish. Because why not? Why not make a game that would be perfectly suitable for any audience and put Spanish quiz questions in? So I don't know much about earlier NES games. I know ones that were released on cartridge are probably better documented, but I suppose there were a lot that were never released on cartridge. Because digital distribution in some senses was a thing even earlier on. So yeah, this has the strangest hill jumping mechanic ever. Again, I guess it's trying to make it look like you're going up and down these ridges in a desert, but the way they programmed it just looks really odd, and that is how it's meant to look. That's not an emulation glitch. Yeah, bubble system's another. I'm glad we've got two, I say dumps, we've got the data extracted from two of them. I'm not sure I'd call them proper dumps, but the data's there. We still need the actual bubble MCU dump, so the countdown speech works though at some point. Because the MCU seems to control the bus until it's booted, which means it can do the countdown warming up speech. Or it gives a program to the 68K to do it, who knows. Either way, that part is not yet emulated. And there we go. So yeah, you get 2 stages of each type. As you can see. The third type of stage is a horrible isometric racer, which is why in testing I never managed to complete it and assumed the game would just work after that stage, but of course it's after those stages where it crashes. Because why would anything else happen? It's always the part you don't test that ends up being the part where it actually crashes. Now, the other thing with these games is they do store the high scores on the disc, and they don't really offer any proper way of resetting those high scores. So this disc is filled with high scores that basically max out the high score table. I did try manually resetting setting them in, just write a new high score table, but then the high score system doesn't work and it still doesn't let you enter any new names or save your new names. So, I don't know. No, the original can't have crashed. It must be a disk issue or a MAME issue, because the high score tables suggest that somebody's played this game for hours and looped it multiple times on real hardware, on the actual discs we're using, at some point in their history. See, that ended really early. That ended like on 15. Oh no, I died. Okay, I thought it ended early. Some of the stages do end early. There you go, you see. Those are the high scores. And that was, say, the 4th stage I died on, and you can't get up to 972,000 points within the first 6 stages, so it must continue after that point, after the isometric stages, after those ones, but with the current dump it doesn't, so we give it one more credit. The discs have probably just decayed over time. It's what happens with discs. Yeah, the Runaway flyer has 1 word. We've seen that. But then some of the other art is 2 words. It's 2 words in the game. So it's not really clear. There's and I would personally trust the programmers rather than whoever was commissioned to do the flyer. But, that's just me. Because flyers were often outsourced. And there's more likely to be typos and errors on flyers and other media than the actual game. Check out 8-bit power in the next release, Bob says. I'll have to do that. Say, some of these music videos are good. I mean, I don't think MAME's APU emulation is perfect in terms of sound, so some of them maybe we're not doing justice to by playing them in MAME, but it's not too bad.
Muy bien, piloto.
Preparado. Listo.
But yeah, I did enjoy seeing this added during the year. Obviously, not a great game, but the rarity of these means you can't help but appreciate the fact that some of them have been dubbed at all. It's just, I mean, it's just a shame the Dracula's Castle disc we got was broken beyond having any real useful data on it. Who knows? Maybe another one will show up, and maybe we'll find out what game Dracula's Castle is, if it's a bootleg or if it's an original game. Or maybe it'll never show up again. Yeah, the engine sound is a little painful.
Muy bien, piloto.
Oh. Well, I got the answer wrong and lost 1,000 points. Yeah, flyers also finding those is important, and I think a lot of people have realised that, and they start getting really expensive now as well, flyers. A piece of paper. But there are plenty of games for which we still don't have flyers. Of course, maybe for some of those games no flyers ever existed. You don't know. It'd be nice to get to the isometric stage, but I don't know if I will. I can't remember if the speech on the magnet system was added during the year either. The actual sampled sound, if that was previous year. If that happened this year, that's also something worth noting in these samples. Did not always work in the magnet system emulation. I mean, it's quite a complex setup, or messy setup, with a board for each layer and a board for the sound and a board for the main game, and the size and cost of the hardware must have been very, very high. Because there are two background layers here and a so-called sprite layer, although it's actually all bitmap based. There's some slight hardware acceleration, but it's not actually sprites and tile maps. It's Z80's maintaining frame buffers with slight drawing acceleration. I'll check the chat in a bit, sorry. Oh, I didn't want to crash there. I think I'm not going to make it now. I crashed twice, unfortunately. That was unfair. Definitely going to make it now. Yeah, there's a countdown. Oh, I did make it, I think. I don't think that got to 0, but I still made it, so I got the answer to that one wrong. Yeah, the drum sounds might be too loud on this. So this is the even more annoying next set of stages, which look more like something from Operation Wolf than a racing game. And yeah, you get 2 of these stages, and then, as I said, at least when Lord BBH played it, the game crashed. And that means at some point I need to see if it crashes due to disk issue or a MAME issue. These stages are horrible though. You basically get no time to react. And the collision is... well... yeah, it's flipped Enduro Racer on the Master System. You hit the bike and you instantly fly backwards. You can't hit the sides either, so you can only move in a small amount of the screen. Then you have to avoid things like that. Yeah, it's quite an ambitious project, but it's not the most well. I would say you have to get right through that gap, and at this perspective, it's just a bit difficult. So that was Paris Dakar, and so that was, to me, one of the more interesting. I didn't get a high scoreboard. I don't think it's possible to get a high score in this, because whoever played this on the actual arcades machine it was in must have been obsessed with it to, you know, presumably loop it several times to get those scores. Anyway. Console improvements. One driver that's not really had much love at all in MAME over the years is the Atari 800, and the emulation is quite lacking. But one of the fixes that did come in over the year was for Choplifter, which had a lot of rendering issues at the time. So it now actually is a playable game. Kind of. If you know how to play it. Which I can't remember how to play it. There we go. Get on board. Now it's only one button, so you have to hold down and fire to shoot, which is kind of the confusing part at times. Yeah, try and fire at tanks. There we go. Get back in. So Choplifter is obviously a famous game that even ended up being ported from the home computers to the arcades. So, got people in here, we take them back to base. And even spawned unofficial sort of sequels. There was Air Rescue, the System 32 game, and Jellicoe put out the overhead sort of view Desert War, which implements a lot of similar mechanics to Choplifter. So it's an important game. Yeah, I've turned on the artifacting in the machine configuration. Previously there was a lot of glitching and flickering. Oh dear, not very good at this. It no doubt improved other 800 games, not 2600, I'm trying to say. Well, you can fire if you're holding full in a direct. Problem without a dedicated fire button, it's quite tricky. Golden Child fixed this, that's the one, Golden Child. Yeah, Andre, the flicker on sprites is how they did shadows when the hardware didn't support transparencies, so that's entirely normal. The hardware can't draw transparent sprites, so it flickers them instead to achieve the same effect. The original Apple II version did have 2 buttons. Unless there's a way to use 2 buttons in this, but it seems to be only a single button. Which is really quite annoying. Or I'm doing something wrong. Which, either is possible. Maybe there's a keyboard option where it plays differently. Because I can't even always work out how to shoot. Like, sometimes I want to shoot and I can't seem to. Bouncy copter. Backwards copter. No. Let's take you to base by flying backwards. Looks like it's rewinding. Oh yeah, you can just... Can you have anybody on board? Did I land in the wrong place? Oh, I landed in the wrong place. I don't know, the way I'm having to play it is I'm having to hold down and fire to actually fire, which obviously sends you down at the same time, which is not ideal. Space doesn't do anything. I don't know, maybe it's just got a really bad control scheme. Or maybe you get used to it. Okay. So then you end up turning around with the same button, and yeah. A lot of 2600 games, 2600 games were quite seizure inducing, so I don't know. So I don't really get the firing mechanic on this. I don't seem to fire when I want to fire. I turn the helicopter on when I don't want to. I'm glad the visual glitches are fixed, but it's probably not my preferred version of Choplifter. The 800 driver does still need a lot more attention, though. There are a lot of things that we really should be emulating properly that we're still not. Oops. Say the 2600 driver is considered pretty good, so I'm going to have to go the other way, aren't I think? The other way from the base. No, not in this version. Where is everybody then? Do I have to blow up the houses to get to them? I can't remember how to play this version. Oh, there's some people there, but I hit the ground. Yeah, it's probably designed to look better on a CRT. I mean, the MAME 2600 driver does automatically blend frames as well. Yeah, I did look at the Viper progress before, actually, but that's a good one to look at, Guru. There's quite a few of them do boot, you're right. What was... Is that one I want to look at? So yeah, as mentioned, some of these Viper games do now do something. They're not playable yet, but they do boot. So you see, you can see some of the demo mode on them. Some of them have sound too. I don't know if the demo sound's just turned off on this one. But this is one where you've got a sword controller, so it's going to be ridiculously difficult to emulate the controller anyway. As you can see, there are still some rendering issues, which I'm assuming are incomplete Voodoo texture formats or the like. There are no controls or inputs beyond ones needed for service mode. But yeah, these did advance during the year. And there's something to potentially look forward to in the future. I don't know when they'll get attention again. As I said, I don't know how you'd actually emulate the controls on this one. You can turn the sound on and track on this one, can you? But yeah, the how to play screen is showing you basically that you've got a sword controller. Now this is a game that quite a lot of people remember playing and often ask about, but can't remember what it was called. Yeah, you held a sort of sword thing and waved it around and tracked your motion or something like that. Very like Wii games, really. Work out how to get. I can credit it up. That's not very useful. But yeah, cannot be skipped. Move away from the screen before swinging. I say you can't actually play them yet, but they do run. Seems to have no sound in game. I don't know if sound just doesn't work on this game then, because I don't think you turn the whole sound in the whole game off in service mode. I don't know. The Jurassic Park one definitely has sound because we had to look at that before and the music played. It's actually running at a respectable 87% speed at most of the time as well. Mazan, yeah, was that the Naomi one? Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. And yeah, the sound in World Combat and Jurassic Park 3 works. But yeah, this has been an interesting program. I'm not going to look at all of them because they're not actually working games yet, but nice to see them booting, nice to see the Voodoo improvements and improvements to the Actor Driver has helped them. I think the main improvements were done for the music games, but I don't really want to cover the Konami music games on stream because, yeah, that's a way to get instant copyright claims on the videos, and that's just a mess. I'd rather not be dealing with that. Anyway, where should we go? Shall we have a look at another one which improved, another Konami game. Again, it's not yet playable. Different hardware. If I've got the UCHD, a triple set of Power PCs. Now this one was actually renamed as well because it was originally called Fighting Bujutsu in MAME, but that's the name of the USA version, which is not dumped because, as rare as this game is, apparently it did have a USA release. Which is incredibly rare and say not been dumped. But this one has started booting again. This regressed and didn't boot for a long time and had bad graphics, and it's still not perfect. It will boot it in a second or two, which should do. Takes a little while. There we go. It's not running at full speed for me because it's got 3 Power PC processors. Yeah, it was called Fighting Bujutsu Overseas. The overseas versions are not dumped. Also, there was a Fighting Wu-Shu original version. The original version is not dumped, only the second version. So there are actually at least two unique versions of this game that are still not dumped. Amazingly, for a game that didn't even do very well. Yeah, only 3 can emulate on the Spectrum, maybe even a CPC. You can see the attract mode runs. Don't think you can coin it up yet, unfortunately. None of the coin keys seem to do anything. Don't know if you set it in free play or something you can play it, but if not, just watch the track mode with lots and lots of slowdowns every time it tries to load data or update texture, I don't know. But yeah, this improved. I think this similar hardware, 3D hardware, to the other Konami 3D games we looked at. But obviously, it's got a whole lot more in terms of processor power driving it. Visually, it actually looks pretty good now. The shadows are wrong, as you can see, they're appearing over the characters. But other than that, it actually looks alright. Yeah, it does look like a Model 3 game. It must have been decent hardware. There you go. I don't know if we can try and put it in free, but I don't know if there's. So there are inputs mapped. Coin options, free play. Yes, save and exit. Don't know if that will help or if we'll still have no inputs, but There's lots of key stakes. Yeah, I was impressed to see this, you know, booting. So yeah, you can actually put it in free play then and actually select a character. So there you go. It's just the coins don't work apparently. Now, I'm not sure this is the most thrilling viewing due to it running. It says 66% speed, but this is clearly lower than 66% speed. This is more like about 10-15%. So there's probably needs higher CPU sync or something like that. It's a problem you also see with some of the Naomi stuff that says it's running about 70% and is actually running about 20 in reality. But progress is progress. Well, clearly Konami didn't think the platform really had a future because this is the only game on it. Various versions of this, including the undumped one. But still, I don't think it's bad looking. It's definitely above something like a PlayStation. Probably above Model 2. Maybe not quite Model 3, I don't know. Some nice lighting effects, as you can see. It seems to be, say, better than the Mortal Kombat 4 hardware that Midway used. Anyway, that was, that's Fighting Bujutsu, which you can coin up. Well, you can't coin up, you can put into free play mode and play. So where shall we go next? Okay, shall we look at some plug and plays? Yes, let's have a look at some plug and plays. So now this plug and play, the version in MAME is a prototype from a development build, but it's probably the same basic code as the release version. But this is one of the Jakks specific plug and plays done by Amaze Entertainment, and these interestingly used analog joysticks, which I'm not sure was to their benefit. Don't really want to play lightsaber duel. Red Leader, I think, is the shoot 'em up. Yeah. So a little Star Wars shoot 'em up. Now, maybe the more interesting thing with these is we also got some of the game keys that were never released. So I did cover those in a stream earlier. But a lot of people have been asking for them, asking us to get the game keys dumped because for one of them at least, there were promotional materials sent out, but then the game key was never released. But since there were like box scans, people thought it was. But they are now all dumped or available in MAME from prototype development builds that surfaced. Yeah, this is it's not a complex shooter. It's not got the tightest controls. It actually plays better in MAME on an Xbox pad than it does on the original stick. Yeah, the rendition of the theme tune is kind of bad, isn't it? I'll check the chat in a little bit. I've accidentally covered it with another window, so I can't actually read what everybody's saying properly at the moment. You do have a bomb, so a little bit serious like with your bomb secondary attack. But, if you like your Star Wars, then I think these plug and plays being dumped and the prototypes turning up would be a really big win for Star Wars fans over the year, because they would have easily just been lost. I mean, I think a lot of plug and plays and things that were in development that never surfaced have just been lost forever. In this case, yeah, this unit itself was released. The game keys that we'll look at in a bit weren't. So take out these. Obviously, it's not bullet hell level shooter. It's a shooter for kids, really. Compared to a lot of the plug and plays that you can find, this is alright. No music in game, as you can see. Or here. But now, I think I prefer the shooter on the other unit, which was emulated in a previous year, because that's more of a time pilot clone, multi-directional lock aim. This is more traditional. It's but more traditional, not necessarily bad. If you've got kids and you want to introduce them to shoot 'em ups, then, and they like Star Wars, this is alright. But obviously, you see, I've not even died yet. I've got like 8 lives now. So you can see there's a few games on this. But as I said, the main thing that maybe we should look at are the prototype game keys. So let me just check the chat. You like the music on that one, on the Konami game Megalo? Yeah. Yeah, if it ran at full speed, it would be a bit nicer. And 3 buttons like Virtua Fighter. Yeah, I think they did take influences from Virtua Fighter, maybe more so than anything else. It's a slower, tactical-paced fighter, that one. And Lo-Fi Kill takes Violent Storm, gets some attention. Yeah, hopefully it does. I agree. I mean, the good thing with the Konami games is their popularity means that people like the ones doing the FPGA emulation are more likely to take a look at them and get the chips decapped. So, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Look at some very obscure plug and plays. There haven't been many super obscure ones dumped over the last year. Extreme Rec. Yeah, Amaze did some Game Boy Advance games too. That is correct. The Tetris plug and play would be... You mean the one with the twisty Tetris block? That seems to be really badly programmed. The actual Tetris controller is probably not as bad as it seems to be. The game double reads inputs. It's not framing them properly or anything. It's just as horrible in MAME as it is on hardware. And I think it's programming more so than the actual controller. Hey Cal, welcome. We were just playing a shooter that doesn't have laser wheels. Yeah, there aren't many Star Wars shooters. There's the 3D ones. Considering Star Wars did get licensed out to other things like these plug and plays, it's quite surprising there aren't more arcade games. So yeah. So yeah, the game keys also turned up. And both of these game keys were unreleased. So again, we've got our little rendition of the theme. Raise all high scores. No. So in this one we get Imperial Gunner and Escape from Cloud City. So we'll put Imperial Gunner on. So this is your shoot stuff in the sky. Crosshair game. I think there are things you're not meant to shoot to, but you know. I'm just going to shoot everything. Yeah. It gives you red score when you shoot things you're not meant to shoot, so don't shoot those ones. Do shoot those ones. Basically, unless you know Star Wars and know which ones are on your side. So I shouldn't shoot those ones. Yeah, let's say this is a prototype. This was never released, the game key, so never made it to market because Jakks cancelled the game key system before this had a chance to actually hit the market. Okay, stage clear. Yeah, it does have a little bit of a Terminator 2 feel to it, doesn't it? number of ships you've got to kill is down there at the bottom corner. It's quite a simple affair. It does use the analog controls in the sense that if you move slightly, it's slower than if you push the stick to the edges. Now protect the trenches. Let's say that anyway. I just lost the right into it. Oops. Star Wars Model 3 game, yeah, the Steg 1 Model 3 is pretty cool. Right. I mean, the arcade games of Star Wars that there were are mostly pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of Empire Strikes Back, as I said. Which we may look at, actually. We may look at Empire Strikes Back, although some of the Star Wars themed stream we did one of those earlier in the year. Then we looked at these. Anyway, so that was... there were 2 games in the game key, and that was one of them. And the other game key was... this one, and again, this is an unreleased game key. I've never played The Last Starfighter. I thought you were joking when you said The Last Starfighter earlier. I was just thinking Tapper Extreme Edition. So at this point, Amaze with Kryptonite. So this is again 2 different games. So you can choose your control scheme. It's a rescue. This kind of feels of the games maybe the one that is not quite as complete. It gets a bit of a rescue, but it's a bit like Choplifter but on the ground. Yeah, you lose them if you get hit, so there you go. And they've been stolen, they've been captured. You have a booster. Ooh. They also seem to act as your health, best I can tell. Because if I get hit without any of them, I'm dead. Game over. It's like an update of the unreleased 2600 game Ewok Adventures. But yeah, you say there were those Star Wars game keys in terms of the plug and plays that surfaced last year, and that's pretty cool to see as far as I'm concerned. We did look at some RX-78 games last stream, so we'll pull another one of those up for now, because there were quite a few dumped, and I've not looked at all of them. So this is Space Enemy by Bandai, and this I like the presentation in this one initially a lot more than many of the other RX-78 games we've looked at. So what type of game is it? Didn't we just play this? It's very similar to the Star Wars games. Now, the first button seems to switch between this auto lock mode and non-auto lock. I don't know if there's a disadvantage of using the lock mode, but yeah, you aim your crosshair, you shoot at these things. In fact, it's a bit like Warp 1 as well that we looked at last stream, the Sun game. Hey, Kaio hello, I can't pronounce your name because I'm really bad at pronouncing names. Yeah, it's been a nice little year for lots of little discoveries. Kusagani, is that correct? Yeah, this has auto. You say you can turn it on and off. I don't know if you score more points with it off. Doesn't. So no, score 1 point regardless. So I'll turn it on. Now most of these RX-78 games are super simple. Yeah, so the first time I try and read anything, and probably many other times, I just end up not fully processing. I've seen your name plenty of times here, and I think I've seen it here and in BBH's streams, but I kind of never try to say the names out loud. I just recognise names as names, and then whenever I have to say them out loud, it's like, as anybody who's followed these streams will know, whenever Aussie Guy, in fact, where is Aussie Guy with the usual facts and lots of Japanese names I fail to pronounce? Unfortunately, this is four-way movement, much like what one was. So you can't slide around quite easily where you want. Now, I really don't know if this game does anything else. I do seem to be aiming higher now. Or the planet's gone, at least. No, the planet's back. It might just cycle what it does. But yeah, it's not been maybe a year full of big hits, but a lot of the changes that have been made are small but important ones. Nice little refinements to the emulation of things that have been emulated for a while. Such as the Mermaid one we started with. So we do have a changed up scene here. You can't move the cursor past that point either. That is the extreme you can move to, which isn't the best. So, well, I don't know what I'm meant to do, unless there's controls I'm missing, like a rotate view, because I couldn't get to that enemy to shoot that enemy. Oh, let's just turn the auto. Oh, the auto lock no longer works. Interesting. Very interesting. Something I have to actually aim. So I've never really played this one before beyond checking out that it booted and was playable. Yeah, Capcom using... well, I don't think they use MAME in its entirety, but they use MAME components at least, because MAME is credited and is officially in that Capcom Arcade Stadium. You're correct. And that was good to see. Obviously, there were some parts they couldn't use at the time, like the sound cores, and they had to use ones from elsewhere. But I mentioned in the previous stream that one of the big things this year was actually Aaron rewriting the sound cores for the YMFM stuff so that it's all BSD licensed and much easier for them to use on consoles than the previous GPL code. Because console licenses tend to not allow you to use GPL code because they don't want to be forced to open up their sources. For like the mainstream ones, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox. So, yeah, I'm not sure there's much more to this game. It just seems to be waves of this. The colours change a little bit. All these RX-78 games seem to be incredibly simple, but experiences that are only on the system in the sense that I don't think these games were ported anywhere. I'm dying, aren't I? Uh-oh. And there we go. The screen is cracked and I have scored 6,100 points. Extreme Wreck is saying there were some Memorex VIS games still lost. Doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me at all. A lot of the time for these obscure systems, until there's a big movement to get things dumped, they just don't happen. So, where next? Looking down the list. Okay, yeah, one of the smaller fixes. We were talking about smaller fixes. This is one that I was glad to get fixed. This is Shot Rider, a Seibu game on Traverse USA hardware. And it's a subtle fix, it's a small fix, but it's all to do with the game timing. And you notice when you're calling it up, you get the traffic light countdown. And in current versions it stays in sync. Before it would play out the animation far too quickly and then stop you playing the game until the sounds had finished, I think, or was it the opposite way around? I think the sound was too quick, wasn't it? Anyway, the sound and video didn't sync up properly and the game didn't quite run at the correct speed. And you know, a little fix to the interrupt generation last year, well this year even. I keep saying last year as if the year's already ended, but it hasn't. It means this one now runs much more correctly. I still question the colours on the second stage, but I don't have any original footage to compare to. You can tell this is probably AY. I believe it's AY, yes. Yeah, there you go. 2 AYs and a 5205 for the samples. Yeah, Jakku emulation, it's just hard. I mean, there have been small updates. Sometimes ended up breaking as much as they fixed. It would be nice to get checkered flag running in MAME though, as bad as it is. But yeah, the Jakku hardware itself was really buggy. It requires step-by-step sync and prefetch emulating on some of the Tom and Jerry chips for some of the games. The games that are well programmed to use the hardware properly tend to push it to its limits and therefore become really tricky to emulate. Like they've studied the exact execution of the CPUs and synced everything up. And then you've got all the lazy Mega Drive ports that don't do much. And then games that look nice just by using the blitter properly, but don't push it too much in other ways. And the CD system, where they use CD formats where instead of using the error correction parts of the CD for error correction, they just put data on them, making them super unreliable. And a multi-session 2 which doesn't represent properly in CHD, man. So Jakku was a bit of a nightmare. The actual Jakku is not emulated well at all, Guru, and the arcade games using it aren't perfect by a long shot. The only reason things like Area 51 and Maximum Force look okay is because they're more or less just streamed video. They're barely using the hardware. If you look at the fishing game, the transparencies on the bubbles are all wrong, I think. One of the fighting games, the shadows regressed when other things on the Jakku side were fixed. It's not a well emulated platform. Show some of the Game Watch titles. I've been having performance issues with those for some reason. I don't understand why, but the latest artwork, many of them aren't running properly. I might look at one of them. I don't know if I've got the full artwork for it, but I might look at one of them. The actual one that's a unique game. As opposed to all the ones that are just reskins of Egg. Yeah, while this game hasn't changed much, it was nice to actually fix that sync on the countdown. It bugged me for a long time. It bugged me since I worked a bit on the emulation of the game back in the day with Docks. Because I could only fix it using a hack, but in reality it turned out it needed proper screen timing and proper interrupt generation. It's not a bad little bump and jump clone without the jumping and with the motorcycle. Oh. Mick says it's insane the monetary value of all the devs coding and PCB dumps added to MAME. Yeah, I mean, it would never survive as a purely commercial project. I mean, if you look at what, say, the people want for working on the Mister stuff, if you'd multiply that by the size of MAME, most of what we've done would never have happened. Which is probably why a lot of the FPGA stuff, at least initially, is only going to be covering the more popular things that people are going to put money towards. Because a lot of what we've done in MAME, nobody's going to care about. It's us deciding to use our time for that type of thing. And it's a big project. Apparently I'm not going to be getting to the second part of this game. Probably because I'm trying to read chat and talk and not play. Taito uses the N-Sonic sound hardware. The stuff Taito used. Mr. Taito. Yeah, it is very close to Traverse USA and on the same hardware, although Traverse USA is credited to IREM while this is credited to Seibu. I don't know if there were actually similar developers involved, because as we found a lot of times when something's credited to a company, it's just somebody developed it for the company, and maybe some of the same people were involved beyond the hardware. Natural. Yeah, there was a refuel stop point there, but I don't think it's going to be there now. Well, I don't think I'm going to make it to it, at least. 1%. Oh dear. So close, but so far away. Yeah, so the second level has some very odd colour choices that I'd need an original hardware reference to know if they're correct or not. Just play in track mode? Yeah, here. Say this looks kind of garish, but maybe it's just meant to be green grass. Mystic and play Konami's finalizer with proper sound emulation. Is there an issue with the sound emulation in MAME? I don't know. I've not really played much of finalizer. Yeah, where is Aussie Guy today? Where is Aussie Guy? Aussie Guy is strangely absent. Okay. Now, I can't remember how to play this one. So, we're in for a fun time, aren't we? Can't remember what discs are meant to insert when. The X68K saw a lot of improvements over the course of the year, and one of the ones that impressed me most was this racing game called Overtake, where if I have the wrong discs in, I'm not going to be able to load it, so this could end up being a big fail. CV1000 with laser wheels. Is this an early 2000 game? No, this is a 90s game. Please insert data disk B. Yeah, let's uninsert these disks from here. Software list. There were no Uncle Pooh improvements, no Bob. Apart from maybe my ability to play the game. But that's not what we're covering. Try Hellhound. I don't know if Hellhound has improved over the year. So is this where the game doesn't boot because I took the disc out? It might be. I remember this being really fussy about booting and not booting, and I probably wasn't meant to remove the first disc or something. I honestly can't remember. I know I had problems with it at the time, and I think it's because I've removed the system disk and I probably wasn't meant to. I don't think it's loading anymore. Let me try again. This could be a fail. I wanted to show this one. I knew this one would be an issue because it was an issue when I tried it at the time. But yeah, I think you're meant to take out data disk A and only put in data disk B. Yeah, floppy samples would help. I don't believe they're hooked up to the X68K driver at all. So maybe I'll take out data disk A and put in data disk B. Does that keep it happy? No, that doesn't make it happy at all. No, because it's taken out that disc. Oh no, because it's purposely ejected that disc. If I can't get this running, I can't get it running. I do remember it being a bit of a pain. Unless it is loading. Yeah, I've forgotten too. It should be the first drive. Unless it's broken again. I don't think it's broken again. Give it one last try and see what happens. If I can't get it loading, I can't get it loading. It's as simple as that. So it definitely wants me to put data disk A in the second drive because it explicitly asks for it. I love loading games off floppy disk. Problem is, it's very easy to be impatient when you're doing it as well. And it's not ejected. It's not ejected the system disk yet. But it does as soon as I put in data disk B. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. It's actually loaded now. So, a racing game on X68K hardware. It's got a number of options. You can change the resolution. Let's turn the poly wall off because it's quite annoying. You can choose music or PCM. I think music or sound effects, I believe. Yeah, background music on, rival off. So you choose what you want. So turn the background. You can change the options. So I'll have background music on and the rival off. That'll do. And start game. We'll do a quick race, one player, and we'll go to the Australian course. Let's do 3 laps, 5 cars, 7-gear automatic. Music we want. Got a selection. Let's go breakthrough. Yeah, I sometimes I forget, so apologies for that. Okay, here we go. Very much influenced by Sega's Super Monaco GP, I'd say. But yeah, the line rendering, the ground rendering, and everything else was a bit of a mess previously in MAME, and not very good at it still. This was improved quite dramatically over the course of the year. Apparently you don't get music at this point, do you? You get music when you qualify? I don't remember, unless I didn't save the changes. It's one of those games where once you remember how to operate it, it's not too difficult, but once you've not done it for a while, you forget, and then you're in trouble. Now, I don't know if as a game it's the greatest racing game ever, but it looks quite nice and it is a good demonstration of how the X68K emulation has improved over the year. Probably need to slow down a bit here, don't I? Yeah. Now, I know one thing I did keep forgetting to do on previous streams is show the intro video from the first 2 discs, but I don't think after failing to get it to load so often, there's really time for doing that today. There we go, that was the qualifying lap, I believe. The only good single CPU racer was Road Blasters, Carlos says. Now we get the music, do we? Don't know. Yeah, now we get the music because it's the proper race. I tell you, it's nice to look at x68K games that aren't just arcade ports too. It did have a good library of original software, and earlier in the year we have looked at many of those games, some of the ones that improved. I didn't get a chance to look at all the improvements though, but at the same time I'm not looking at those now, I'm looking at ones I'm at least somewhat familiar with, but otherwise we would spend even longer when we can go, I don't know how it works. Good races have multiple CPUs for the road. So Jalico's Cisco Heat must be an amazing racer, Carlo, with all its CPUs. Is that right? Final lap, says Cam. Maybe. Risks turning into a racing stream though. Come on, I'm in first place. I want first place. I'll drive through you into first place. Hey, no, that's not fair. Hey, give me my places back. That would involve me finishing a race, Bob. Yeah, somehow Jalico did make a bit of a mess of Cisco Heat. Be nice to get the Mega System 32 racing game running, but that does require some sort of DSP emulating that we don't even know what is. It probably has an internal ROM. So we are on the final lap, even though it doesn't say final lap. I hit something. I was doing so well. Cisco Heat has the worst corners ever though. I know it's meant to be set in San Francisco and so that's how the corners would be, but still it doesn't translate well to an arcade game. It reminds me of some of the Batman games where you're doing 90-degree corners, which I never really enjoyed. I'm a little bit behind first place now, unfortunately. So I thought Road Blasters were okay. I never really thought it was the greatest game ever. There's the first place car. Got you in my sights. But I think the finish line is just up ahead, and we're not going to catch the first place car. We're not, but there you go. A race and I finished in second, which is actually pretty good. What's the hardest race? Yeah, the hard driving, obviously. Good call, Bob. Good call. So there you go. Overtake on the X68K. A good example of how the X68K emulation improved. I didn't pick the course with the bridge in it, unfortunately, which would have been a good one to demonstrate, but never mind. I couldn't remember which one it was, to be honest. Right. Okay, let's have a look down the list here. Okay, yeah, let's have a look at that. Don't think I've got the full artwork for this one, but we have been talking about Game & Watch clones and the like, so how about Auto Slalom 1990 Electronica? Yeah, so this is the yeah, you can see enough of the artwork there, so it should be alright. Set time. And I think this is one of the few that's actually an original game. I could be wrong. What are the inputs? Left, right, speed, and start. Okay. So I'm going to dodge those. I think I am, aren't I? I ran over one of the landmines. I don't know what they are. Something on the track and not meant to run over. And I did it again. An isometric version of Activision's Grand Prix. It's something. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's just avoiding things that are on the track, really. Switching between the 3 lanes and not running them over. It's lane switching simulator. Yes, there are many of these LCD games, and the Electronica ones tended just to be Game & Watch clones. So, I don't believe this one is, though. I think this is either a clone of something that somebody else made, or they actually made an original game. But we've had quite a lot dumped over the last month, actually, and where the artwork's been scanned, where they're just all reskins of Egg. Some of them are quite creative, like there's goalkeeper ones, there's battleship ones, where you're defending against enemies, but in the end, many of them are just Egg. I should have a look at them at some point on stream, but I don't know when. I might get a new PC first, we'll see. I could probably do with upgrading. This one is a bit old now. Probably had about 8 years. Apparently I did good. Yeah, most of the pops, there's lots of Pop Station clones, you're right. Although I think the Pop Stations themselves are all ones we can't dump yet. The MC, they might not be code clones, just heavily inspired by. You get the idea anyway. It's dodging things. I don't think it gets much more complex or detailed. Probably just gets a bit faster. It's fairly well done. Could occupy a bit of your time on a car journey or something, which is basically what a lot of these things were for. Playtime at school, journeys. Early portable gaming. Did I fail? Will I continue? Apparently I can continue. I don't know. I think that probably means I've got one life left. Yeah, that was it. So I scored 417. There you go anyway. Where should we go next? Okay, let's have a look. MCUs being decapped and dumped is always important. And while it's maybe not going to change the game much, Space Harrier is one where the MCU was decapped and dumped, and the MCU controls this startup text with a countdown number, which, as I say, nobody had ever reported to be missing in the emulation, but the MCU is drawing that because the MCU has bus control, and the MCU controls a bunch of things in the game, including when extra lives are awarded and
welcome to the fantasy zone. Get ready.
All sorts of stuff. So the gameplay probably hasn't changed, but it is just the fact the MCU is now emulated rather than simulated is a nice step forward. It helps clean up the main code base, and it helps people if they need to repair the PCBs. I think this revision, one of the revisions, the MCU has had to be hacked from the dump because it's meant to use a different MCU, because the MCU is doing a checksum of the program ROMs, so it needs the correct checksum in the program, in the internal ROM to pass. I think it's the non-revision A where the MCU is not dumped, but we're using a fake file from this one. But yeah, if you're repairing PCB, many things can go wrong, including the MCUs. So being able to reprogram and repair them is important.
Get ready.
Obviously decapping has been happening for quite a few years, and a lot of the Sega games now actually have the MCUs decapped. In many cases there are unprotected versions anyway, although Space Harrier there's no official unprotected version. There are of course people who have hacked the board without the protection, bootleg versions. Don't know if those are what the MAME actually, but there was no official Sega unprotected version, but I think people have packed it to run unprotected on PCBs. I remember completing Space Harrier on Yakuza 0. Yeah, Sega like to throw in their scalar games as bonus content in Shenmue and Yakuza, didn't they? There might be a decap of the other revision coming soon. That'd be nice. I mean, I'm gonna guess it'll match the handcrafted one, because I don't think there's going to be that much changed Stardack, but yeah, it'd be nice to actually have it confirmed from a proper dump so it doesn't have to be marked as bad dump. Same for many of these Data East ones. Having proper dumps is a good idea, because every region uses a different ROM and sometimes there's only one dumped. But it still allows us the code to be cleaned up in the meantime. The only risk is if people are reprogramming chips with the handcrafted dumps, and then the ones that have been handcrafted end up on PCBs and the dump. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
You're doing great. Get ready.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's possible there are other subtle differences in the gameplay we haven't noticed with the simulation that are now correct with the emulation. Because, yeah, Sega did sometimes put in subtle protection checks, like the whole live things that was fixed in the simulation quite recently, before it was replaced with the emulation. You never really know until you've got the proper dumps. So, nice little improvement here. The MCU, I believe, also reads the controls and stuff, so it had to be reworked a little bit, the driver for that. I always think the rainbow effects look very Amiga-like, even though the Amiga couldn't possibly pull off the ground plane at this speed, or even the sprite scaling at this speed. But I always associate rainbow effects with an Amiga. There we go. Now, one of the interesting things with Space Harrier is you don't buy credits, you buy lives. So the more credits you put in, the more lives you get. Not many games were doing that in '85. It's a very unconventional way to do it. But, there we go. Yeah, I can imagine it worked well with a flight stick Pirate Game Boy. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. On the high level, are you talking about the LCD game, Robert? Yeah, some of those LCDs did get a bit blurry at high speeds. You are correct. See, I've got some things in my notes here where I don't know the specific game in the driver they improved. For example, the Deco MLC system, there are various improvements. It said the sprite auto flicker flag has been added, but and there's a problem fixed with the 8-bit mode, but it doesn't actually reference which game was improved by it. Maybe something like the shadows in Hoops. I really don't know. So I can't actually demonstrate some of these fixes that have happened over the years that actually sound quite interesting, because I kind of like the MLC driver, but I don't know what game to fire up to show what was actually fixed there. So I'll have to skip over looking at that one. Instead, where shall we go? Yeah. Okay. A fairly silly little thing. But one of the things I did look at over the year were some of the protected Pirate Mega Drive games. Now, MAME has had an unprotected version of this supported for a while, but this is an Argentine game called TC2000, and the original cart actually has a little protection in it. And for some reason, some of the dumping groups had actually identified the protected versions as bad because they didn't run any cart copies and flash carts, but they are in fact just protected. Now, you can probably instantly see it's just a quite bad hack of Super Monaco Grand Prix. But I think it's important to actually get these running. You know, you want to be able to emulate the proper protected cartridges, even if it's a terrible, pointless game, as you know we basically have here. I can't remember how to accelerate though. Oh, I've remapped the keys. That's why. So yes, now I'm quite far behind. But yes, it's quite a badly done hack where the cars have been replaced by what, if we're honest, like cardboard boxes with paint on them, and there's loads of manufacturer logos and things pasted in, and hood details removed, and it's not great. But this was sold in Argentina as a commercial game for the Mega Drive, and on a protected cartridge, because they were obviously really concerned about somebody bootlegging their bootleg. Yes, there's also an arcade game called TC2000 that's a hacker pole position. You are correct, Extreme Wreck. Looks like a stationary ride with a video playing in front of it. It does a bit, yes. It looks like one of those old toys you could get. where the car was just an object and there was a road that you moved across. At the end of the day, it's still the Super Monaco GP engine for the Mega Drive, so it's a playable game. It's just you're not really going to want to play this over a proper version of Super Monaco GP or the sequel, which added a bunch of extra stuff. And it's interesting because from what I remember, there's like 2 copies of the game ROM. It's a double-sized ROM with the patches applied in half the ROM, and I don't fully remember. And then a bunch of protection checks added so that you can't copy it. It's definitely not a bad dump. Now, a lot of people did really like Super Monaco Grand Prix on the Mega Drive, and often prefer it to the arcade game. The arcade game was very pretty, but didn't really have the same depth. This had a lot more tracks, a lot more to do, fairer challenge. They're not, you can't really say it's a port of the arcade game because it's just unrelated to Super Monaco GP in the first place, apart from the title. But you can see why they hacked a popular game, because they couldn't make their own. And obviously couldn't really draw. So in fact, they probably had very few talents, whoever made this. However, they made it, and people remember it. People bought it. I've been asked several times over the years about it. Much like, say, the Miss Pac-Man twin hat from Argentina. I guess things that are made there are known amongst people who live there. No turning frames at all, no, that would require extra drawing. There you go. So when I spent a little time out from the usual stuff I was working on to hook up the protection in. There's an unprotected version that had been supported since the Haze MD days, but having the protected version running was a nice little bonus. There's also Argentino 96, which is a hack of one of the football games with very similar protection. So let's look at this. So we have a look at a clone. Let's have a look at a clone that was dumped. I did do some coverage of this when it was dumped, but this is Bubble Buster, which is the USA version of Puzzle Bobble, which is potentially a prototype, but still seems to be the final code revision. I've never tried it, Guru, and I think it's still running all the retail ROMs. So I'd kind of like to see the proper cartridges for it dumped in case they're different, rather than just showing it in the current state. Because there were a few where there were questions as if it used the retail ROMs because they're too big for what seems to be the banking mechanism on it. Anyway, so as we discussed at the time, for some reason Taito didn't think the world markets wanted a puzzle game with all the cutesy characters. So what they were trying to put to the market before it came out on the Neo Geo was Bubble Buster, which is Puzzle Bobble without Bub and Bob, without their famous characters from Bubble Bobble. And they went to do the same with Buster Move Again on the F3 system, despite the fact that the Neo Geo got the proper version of Puzzle Bobble for all regions. The interesting thing with this is it has unique sound ROMs, whereas you could always region hack the other set to run as Bubble Buster, but the sounds were wrong. Again, much like Buster Move Again. For some reason, and it's very unlike Taito to do it, both these versions require different sound ROMs and write different sound commands. So they clearly took exception to their usual process for these releases. And again, I don't really know why, but there's nothing wrong with a cutesy puzzle bobble. In fact, it's the main reason people play it. You know, it's what actually made the game appeal to a wide audience, and Taito didn't want that. A very strange decision. In terms of how does this play, it plays exactly like Puzzle Bob. It's the same game, just without the cutesy characters. Yeah, some of the sound effects seem to have been taken from other Taito games, but they're all more mechanical. I mean, I don't think they put a huge amount of effort into making new content for it. In fact, I'd assume it's something maybe a USA division of Taito did. It's just so unlike what you'd expect from the Japanese division. If you looked at, say, Twin Kicks, where the USA version is significantly different to the Japanese too, that didn't require different sound ROMs. Still plays a good game. I mean, you do sort of forget that this is the first of the Puzzle Bobble games when you're playing it. It plays as well as any of the others. In fact, maybe I prefer it over some of the sequels for the pureness of the gameplay. It's not got all sorts of little extras that just get in the way. It's a very pure, simple Puzzle Bobble experience that was just, perfectly made. But this really isn't the version you're going to want to play. You're going to want to play either the B-System Japanese version with the proper World Mob, or the Neo Geo release that most people play, which was fully localised with World Mob. This is a curiosity at best. Nice to see it done though, because I didn't think we'd ever see a proper version of it dumped. And it's a piece of Taito history that is important for showing that mistakes were made, or potentially made. You can't handle the cute bubble dinosaur, so this is perfect for you. Maybe you were the intended audience then, Cow. I should have called it Puzzle Bobble Extinction Edition. That's not going to work, is it? No. Oh. Oh well. Are there any versions of Puzzle Bobble still undumped? Don't know of any, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, Bust a Move again kind of replaced them more with machines and the like, whereas this just takes things out and gives it a very odd soundtrack. Yeah, it was Neo Geo version was called Buster Move, but still had the all the cute characters. But at one point, it was going to be Bubble Buster without the cute characters. So there you go. Let's have a look at the list again. Okay. Let's have a look at this. It's not a good game. Chuo's Time Limit. Now, the improvement here is that previously the game ran too fast. It appears this Chuo hardware, for whatever reason, only generates an interrupt every other frame, not every frame. So it updates at 30 frames a second. It's a 60 Hz display, but it updates the game at 30 frames a second. Before, MAME was running it at 60 and it was unplayably fast, and all the music went out of sync and everything else. So It's still terrible though. So now I can move and climb ladders very slowly. Now there is said to be an improved version of this game that's still undumped. This is definitely the first revision, because the improved version lets you fire in different directions on the ladder. These ones you can only fire left on the ladder. As you can see, it's not a very good game. You're in the wrong position on the ladder, you'll just jump. The people who appear there, you can't do much about them. Go up the escalator. It's like bad elevator action or something. But it is more playable now, because it doesn't run at a ridiculous speed. Can't go that way. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm meant to pick up that? I'm probably meant to pick up that. I'm meant to avoid this. Probably. Oh, I can shoot it. And I got caught. There are still a lot of undumped games, Bob. If they'll show up, we don't know. The problem is prices have got silly. And very few of them are worth what people are asking. So, I mean, you know, my approach to things has been, you know, I work on things we can actually afford. They might not be the greatest things in the world, but I'd rather emulate 20 plug-and-play games than buy some ridiculously overpriced arcade PCB for a game that failed for good reason anyway. Hey Aussie guy, we were wondering where you were, but welcome, it's good to see you. See, I don't remember if I played this once it ran at the correct speed, but it's still not any more fun. It's just a little less, oh, I put credit in and I died. I don't know what this tune is. Should we take the lift instead? I think you're meant to find a time bomb or something. The other game on the hardware also benefited from the change. We may look at it, it's called Progress, which is an appropriately titled game for a stream about progress. Yeah, the map loops. So I kill this guy and then I pick this up. And go up here, I get killed by that. It sounds like the Great Escape theme. Maybe it's based on that. You were watching Spider-Man No Way Home. I've not really been tempted to watch that one myself. I've never really followed the Spider-Man movies, although everybody seems to be saying good things about it. Maybe if you knew what you're doing, there'd be some more fun to be had in this one. I mean, it is more playable now than it was last year, the previous year, but yeah, you can't even begin to say it's a good. If they're on the ladder and you shoot them, it goes straight through them. You have to wait for them to get off the ladder. Yeah, okay, time limit has had its time. So we will have a quick look at the other one on the driver, where the change isn't quite as noticeable. But this is Progress, the other Chuo game, and by far the better of the two Chuo games. again, this was running twice as fast before. Although this one was still quite playable at twice the speed. This for some reason always reminds me of a Data East game. And I kind of get strong Data East cassette vibes off this one. Obviously it's not a Data East game. But I could imagine it being one. Looks like a 80s Amiga game. I think the sprite's a bit small for an Amiga game. By the Amiga era, everybody was trying to go, well, let's have ridiculously big sprites. And yeah, I think the annoying beeping sound is actually correct. It's a choice. Well, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not. But honestly, I can't remember. You think it looks and sounds like early Nichi Butsu? I mean, that definitely wouldn't be my go-to for it. This section was horrible when it was faster, actually, I remember now. I mean, it's pretty horrible anyway, but it was super horrible when it was faster. Still, things spawning where you are is never a good mechanic. I think I said that last time. But yeah, if you've got to choose between this and time limit, then this every time. If you've got to have one Chuo game in your collection, not that there are many to choose from. So this is somewhat fun. Hey Bomber Matt, welcome. I hope you're doing well. What brings you here today? I didn't destroy the helicopter, so the helicopter now is my enemy. There we go then. Oh. No. Why is a big tank thing chasing a big truck thing chasing a tank in the first place though? I got through the minefield. These Chuo games are probably developed at Daisai Sakusho, the company behind Super Rider and Fitter. I think you mentioned that before, and Super Rider is one I keep meaning to play on stream actually. Aussie guy. Because Super Rider is one that doesn't get played much and is also quite janky. But yeah, Progress now runs at the correct speed and is more playable than it was before. Okay. Stadium Cross by Sega. We don't want both views. We don't want both screens. We want a screen not standard. And yeah, the sound's only going to be one channel because, well, it might be. You have crackling problems on your Sega CD. I wouldn't know how to diagnose it, unfortunately, or what would be wrong. So, what was missing in this was the engine sound. Prior to the fix earlier in the year, there was no engine sound in this, and there is now. So yeah, I'm trying to remember the controls here. Unfortunately, I think this is a pretty ugly Sega racer. Poor draw distances and not a patch on things like power drift that were on the Y board. Oh, lap 2. I mean, did the motocross drivers really spend half the race punching other people? Or they just want to go full road rash on us here? So I'm surprised there isn't a road rash motocross game. Maybe there is. Maybe I'm just not aware of it. There's no Moto Racer. No Excite Bike either. It's just like if you made Power Drift, but you made it bad, made it on bikes. The finish line, it was there. It was right there. Yeah, I don't mind some of these motocross games. I spent quite a lot of time playing one of the PlayStation 3 ones. Although, as soon as I tried to play it online, I realised I wasn't actually that good at it. But it's probably better with another player to play against this one. So I can only judge it as a single player game. But Sega's just done better before. But yeah, look at that draw distance. It's just why? Why is the draw distance so poor? And the sprites just fall apart because it's all sprite based rather than having a proper road layer. Because System 32 could do lots of sprites, but just, I mean, it's got decent time-up hardware, although only one time-up per screen on. Is it 1 or 2 per screen on multi? I can't remember. But it's nice to have an engine sound anyway. I think Dink, was it Dink from Final Burn? Neo fixed the engine sound on this one. There have been a few engine sound fixes actually. There's a certain game with Final in the title that had an engine sound fix too. You may have a look at it. Also, the commentator's really annoying. Just repeating the same things over and over again. Again, maybe with more players, the commentator would repeat themselves less often. Did they steal Cynthia Phillips for the girl picture? Maybe they traced somebody, I don't know. Any upcoming game dumps to look forward to? Not that I'm in the know over Lo-Fi Kills. Say a lot of stuff these days is just too expensive, so we're working mostly with what we've got. Yeah. Anyway, that was Stadium Cross with a fixed engine sound. So, yeah. Final lap, where there were fixed graphics and engine sounds. It's like 4 tracks but bad. Yeah, 4 tracks does it better. I'm assuming you meant this is like 4 tracks but bad, nothing else. Shift gear. Sorry, let's start this again. This is the spin out simulator. As you can hear, the engine sound is now an engine sound, when in older versions of MAME, the engine sound was just a constant hum that did not change frequency or anything else. So you couldn't really get an idea of how fast you're meant to be going. And there have been a number of improvements. The visual improvements, the sparks behind the car, sound improvements, such as the engine sound and the spark sound you're hearing. And item positioning improvements. For example, the road layout was offset incorrectly before, so the roadside objects appeared in the wrong places, and you couldn't really see where you were relative to the track. I don't really know how to diagnose the Sega CD. I know the Sega CD seems to have some unusual audio paths, because for stereo sound on the Sega CD, we were discussing it the other day, for stereo sound you have to have the extra cable inserted at the side, except not when you're using headphones, and not on the Model 2 system, later model. I don't really know. So it sounds like there's some interesting design choices in the Sega CD audio department. But yeah, so these Namco racing games did see some dramatic improvements over the course of the year. Not only the racing games though, Looking Wild has much better sound now, for example, too. That one tends to get overlooked a little bit more. It's quite difficult to play without the real controls, though, as are many of these. But I'm better at the game than you. That's because I played it far too often on stream at this point, and I still can't manage to do it. Not Last Circuit, yes. Okay, well, we've seen plenty of Final Lap. I think we can have a look at some other games, can't we? Yeah, let's stick with Namco, though. Yeah, for a bit of football, because this is one that had always had issues in MAME. Now, one of the issues was there was always a garbage sprite in the corner, and that was caused by the Namco sprite hardware code trying to draw 2 sprite lists all the time, just for the sake of, I think, the service mode in one of the 3D games, whereas in fact one's probably either a buffer which gets copied to, or there's some control that we're missing. But this game leaves garbage in the second list, so it was causing a bad sprite. And also, it writes invalid values to the clip registers after a match, which ended up just leaving the game on a black screen. So, those have been fixed. You put the Taito driving games, they're a little less twitchy, aren't they? Yeah, the CPU cards go off the track on Final Lap 2. They don't care. You see, it's got some nice zooming effects. Konami used some zooming effects on, I think it was Premier Soccer 2. So it's not unheard of to have zooming effects in football games. And of course, Hat Trick Hero did a few too. I think it may be. Well, football games often make good use of the hardware. Super Sidekicks on the Neo Geo, the sequels, all really pushed the raster effects on it. I've talked about Grand Striker having really annoying rotation hardware that I've never managed to figure out for the pitch. Konami's football games on the GX system, quite advanced use of the rotation and multi-screen support. Oh dear, I've let in a goal. Yeah, somebody was saying they had a problem with, I think, with the capacitors on their Sega CD as well, on the Bannister.org chat box, and it was being discussed last night. It's like, oh, that's why it doesn't work. Yep. That's it. The Outfox even makes heavy use of the scaling on this hardware too, yeah. Mermaid might be the parent could be an early version compared to the Japanese version. Maybe we should check. Maybe we should check if the enemies on the other stage work in Yachtsman. Then it could be they weren't finished in that version. If it is an early version, but I thought it was probably just a hardware collision emulation issue. But yeah, this one has never been perfect in MAME and is much better now. In fact, it may not have any obvious glitches anymore since the say the bad sprite has been fixed and the black screen's been fixed. We'll see if I can actually win a match. There we go.
Time up. The winner is
Hopefully it's yeah, just a bad connection or something, maybe a bit rusty, or I don't know. I am not an expert at fixing things, unfortunately. It's like my camera over there, the USB doesn't connect on it anymore. It started going really bad and now it just doesn't really connect at all. So yeah, before on this in MAME you couldn't get to the second match, it would black screen you and you'd have a garbage sprite in the corner. Both those issues were fixed over the course of the year. So if you want to play a bit of Namco football action, this is now much better. But I think people have other football games preferences, but in all honesty this isn't a terrible one. Yeah, I can't solder at all, unfortunately. I don't have steady hands or coordination or anything for it. I just make a mess. I think applying thermal paste to a CPU is about my limits of anything. I think you can do a little trick there. I just pick the ball up and headed it. Now we're for time. 2 hours and 22 minutes. So about 40 remaining. Not even looked at some of the plug and plays yet. That's a good time to score a goal, even though, you know, I was hoping to actually not win the match. He fixed waxing VTO3 plug and play. Yeah, some of those are really badly put together. You open them up and they fall apart. Or they rattle even when you've not opened them up and you wonder what on earth is loose inside them. Oh, it looks like I'm not winning. Does it just continue? Or does it go to penalties? Extra game. Oh. It's not demanding a coin straight away. That's interesting. Usually these games demand a coin as soon as you draw a match. Weishing. X is closest to Sure. So it's even a fairly fair football game compared to some of them. Usually the second you draw a match, it's game over. Well, you also have some aftertouch on the ball, I noticed. Move the joystick, you can swerve the ball. Look, a little bit. It gets a little trail effect on it. So maybe there's a lot more to this game than I thought. I've never really spent much time with it. But there seems to be some nice touches that are easy to miss. Not that you speak Chinese. As versus Net Soccer. It's playable. There's various glitches. Mostly in the backgrounds and stuff. But it's been playable for a long time. It doesn't feel too nice to play because unfortunately the way Konami split the screen on it means that each screen only updates at 30 Hz effectively. So it doesn't feel that smooth, but it looks nice and it plays pretty well. It's just got a few visual glitches. So is that game over, or do we actually get the penalties for free? Yeah, we don't get the penalties without another coin. That's fair enough. There you go. Actually, V-Shoot, I think this is probably a better game than I was giving it credit for. There does seem to be a bit to it in terms of the mechanics. I was noting I could curve the ball a bit at the end there, and it's fair. It plays all right. And it now works better in MAME than it did previously. So that's everybody wins, I think. Silly things. There have been quite a few of these Mega Drive bootlegs dumped over the years, including a Bare Knuckle 2 one and a Bare Knuckle 1 one, but we'll have a look at the Bare Knuckle 2 one. Turn the volume up. This is where I have to remember to turn the volume down afterwards because you know why. So it's crudely hacked to use coins. Yes, you can change character by pressing direction and start, like many of these silly Chinese hacks. If that's what you really want to do. On-the-fly character changes, which I'm sure there are places you could probably crash the game with. Yeah, I mean personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the game, but I can admire, I appreciate it's a really well done beat 'em up, especially on the Mega Drive, which I never really found that thrilling. But yeah, the soundtrack is amazing. I just like my games to have a little bit more fantasy to them, not just, you know, walk along the streets beating regular people. Also, that pickup sound sounds so much like the Pac-Man credit sound. Yeah, I can understand and appreciate it being a good game. It's just not my type of game. Certainly better than anything. Well, a lot of the games Seibu are putting out in the arcades as beat 'em ups. Of course, they did actually put out a Mega Play version of this, which sort of makes these Chinese hack versions a little pointless because there's an official version. Although maybe the official version is not as good. If there's anything like the Sonic one, I don't know. Yeah, the novelty of these, like many of the Chinese beat 'em ups, is that it's hacked so you can change the character at any time. Which always seemed a bit silly to me, but I think that's what people want in China. Every time a game gets hacked in China, you'll have a character change on the start button moving direction or just cycling. Yachtsman is a leftover title graphic from Mermaid. Oh yeah, Yachtsman's the Japanese version, isn't it? Yeah, of course. I mentioned that earlier. For some reason I got them swapped around in my head earlier when you were talking about it. So the Japanese version might be a later release. Yeah, that makes more sense. I'll have to see if there's any differences. Now some of these games have levels taken out, level orders changed. Let's say that I would always recommend instead just playing the proper Mega Drive versions. But it's nice to get them dumped. Some of them have protection MCUs that might eventually need decapping to handle the coins. Others just handle the coins directly. There's a whole bunch of SNES ones too, which are usually encrypted and have custom protection and boot vectors. But yeah, so I do love the music on it. I'm not a big beat 'em up fan, but I do love the music on this, and I can appreciate it as a really solid and well-programmed example of the genre. It is everything you want a beat 'em up to be, if you want to play a beat 'em up. I kind of just wish Golden Axe was as well-programmed and well-made as this, but with that little added fantasy twist, because that would have been just perfect for me. But instead, you know, we got Golden Axe 2, which was not that much of an improvement, and Golden Axe 3, which should have been so much better. It's just really a lazy game. It's one of those where I wish somebody would kind of remake Golden Axe 3 as it should have been, to the quality of, say, this or Streets of Rage 3, using all the new effects on the Mega Drive, and put that proper Golden Axe game that you should have got. You love Bare Knuckle 3. Yeah, the Japanese versions are always better. This and Bare Knuckle 3. The Japanese versions are definitely better. There's no doubt about that. Anyway. Some of your favourite game composer, Yuzo Koshiro and Stephanie Puke. Stefan. Is it Stephanie Stefan? Again, I'm not good with names. Yeah, bin chicken's the best chicken. Now, as you probably know, MAME's emulation of the Mega Drive on Streets of Rage 1, the original Bare Knuckle, actually doesn't quite work on the status bar because it's using the masking effect in a way that well, it was implemented with old knowledge. It's understood more how the masking effect works now, but getting it right in every case, especially some of these nasty ones that aren't really purely masking effect like Mickey Mania, requires big improvements to the Mega Drive emulation that really requires a rewrite. And yeah, I don't really have time to do that, or the really understanding at that level to do it. Anyway, strangely, the most popular video on my channel is the Sonic Popcorn machine, and another such machine was added over the year, which is the Anpan Man one. Its motor is not working because it doesn't seem to function quite as well as the Sonic one. Obviously, this isn't much of a game, it's a popcorn machine. Koshiro's company Ancient, their first game was Sonic the Hedgehog for the Game Gear and Master System, which is a very topical one because there's today there was released that C64 port of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is really, really good. Unfortunately, it requires the RAM expansion card, which MAME does emulate, but whenever I enable the RAM expansion card in MAME, the game still doesn't detect it, so I don't know if it's never worked or the game's trying to detect it in the wrong way, or if it's regressed at some point. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to load that C64 port of Sonic in MAME because it just says the RAM expansion card's not connected, even if you have it connected. So, he's a French composer who did the music to various cryo games. Some of the best YM3812 music. Yeah, let's make some popcorn. Or not make some popcorn. It's not quite as appealing as the Sonic one, is it? Just use the rose school effect. I'm amazed they went to the effort of doing a rose school effect on the floor, to be honest. And I guess you've got some popcorn, even though that sounded like I failed. I would like some popcorn, but I don't have any of it now. Is it telling me to get the popcorn? I really don't know what it's doing. There we go. And everybody's eating some popcorn. I think they just rebalanced the game low-fire kills. Yeah, there we go. I guess we have some popcorn. It will reset to the title screen. Yeah, there you go. I mean, there's not much else to say about this one. It's in MAME. Its motor's not working, but I mean, it works as well as you can probably expect a popcorn machine to work without actually being able to make popcorn. Now, apparently there are English versions with English speech of the popcorn machine and some of the kiddie rides which aren't dumped. I don't know if they'll ever be dumped. So people knew they were in the UK at least. Yes, a popcorn machine. So Bob says Xmas 15 was a pretty good one. Volume level back down. Well, pretty good music, maybe not a good game. We'll see. Let's get a bit more Christmassy. That was a nice Christmas tree effect. I like the 3D tree. That's quite impressive. 12 seconds of Christmas. Oh. And now there's no music. Oh yeah, I did play this earlier. I don't quite understand why my lives goes up when I press the button, to be quite honest. But yeah, you make the steps, or you don't in this case, and then you go to the exit. So every time you press the button, you go back to the start, except you've got a piece where you left it. No in-game music. Yeah, that's a bit of a shame, really. It's an interesting concept for a puzzle game. So I don't understand why lives goes up. It's lives used rather than lives left, I guess. And the level progression doesn't really seem to be logical because some of the earlier stages are harder than the later stages. But let's just put the music back on. So there are, I'm guessing, if I'm scrolling this across, 99 levels, and it times you. Is that golden Dr. Y? I don't know. Are you trying to quote my hot sauces? So they say pain is good, not pain is fun. Oh yes, select for an alternate track. But yeah, I guess the novelty of these was more the, all the flashing lights on them, rather than the games. And it's just a sort of a little way of contributing to the homebrew scenes, I guess. Christmas novelty light up cartridges. And I think if you order them, you can customise the message so it doesn't say support NES homebrew. It would say, Happy Christmas to so-and-so, or, we hate you, that's why we bought you a NES in 2021, and now you're going to expect us to spend $2 million on Super Mario Brothers, or something like that. I don't know. But yes, it's coming up to Christmas, so we can have some Christmassy bits and pieces. Unfortunately, there aren't really many Christmassy games that have improved. I might do a Christmas stream anyway if I'm at home and play, Boogie Wings with the Santa boss and things like that. But, Super 7 from Sanritsu. An interesting take on Mr. John with slot machine elements. I suppose when somebody finds one and doesn't want to charge a fortune for it. Yeah, some nice little Christmas tunes in this one. Not much to play, and a real shame they don't play the tunes in game. But now, does the actual code drive the lights, or are the lights done on a separate MCU, or just random? Because if the lights are driven by the game code, we could potentially add artwork for these. I guess if you've got a NES, you put it on in the background and have some Christmas music in this case. It's like one of those fake fireplaces with the fireplace effect. It's just all Christmassy and a bit of a novelty. The code drives the lights. Interesting. So yes, potentially that could be hooked up. But there you go, a little bit of Christmas music again. Thanks to Bob for adding those to the software list. And I decided it was Christmas, so we would have Christmassy time, so we'd have a look at them. What shall we do now, though? Shall we go for another little LCD? Not even LCD. It's more an LED game. This one. Now I do have to reduce the window size in this because otherwise it runs like absolute garbage on my PC. So apologies for that. We should be good. Yeah, we should be good now. Fit it on the screen at least. There we go. So this is Mattel's Soccer, which seems very much like the basketball game. In fact, it doesn't seem much like soccer at all, but I'll not say too much about that. Maybe it's the same code as basketball, because it really does seem like the same game. You're just got to try and move your red dot to a position where you can score a goal, which is completely not really how you play football. It's all hooked up. Let's set the artwork. I say artwork and software lists don't really play well together, do they? Unfortunately, I'm not sure you can specify an artwork file for a software list entry and still have it compiled. Oh, I know it's a problem with Vectrex too, where it needs artwork for different games. It's something that may need consideration in the future. So yeah, quite a few of these LED games and similar were emulated, and these were quite popular back in the day. They don't always hold up that well today. I mean, this is just weaving your way in and out, trying to find the right route to goal. So I'm pretty sure it is the same game as the basketball, just with a soccer theme, because not everybody wants basketball, especially outside of the US. Just the blinking patterns with the light on the Christmas one. I don't know what the capabilities are at the moment, and I think device artwork and extra screens, it all gets quite confusing, and it's kind of pushing the boundaries of what MAME handles well. I'm not doing very well here. I was better at the other football game. Say I've lost the ball. Football, yes. A very basketball-like game of football, where the goalkeeper, maybe it's a bit different, but I don't know. And then you lose the ball, I guess. I imagine me playing football is better than this, and I've never been good at playing football. I know a lot of people like these things, and I don't hate it. I just don't really fit. This does not feel like I'm playing any kind of football game. It feels like basketball. You don't have one player running around up and down and. I never really understood Blockbuster Aussie Guy, because it seems like you still need Mahjong knowledge even when it's not using Mahjong tiles, and that made no sense to me. Anyway, yeah, there are quite a few of these emulated. A lot of people have fond memories of them. I didn't grow up with these. I have no particular memory of these. But yeah, they're quite often asked about, and many of them do run, and quite a few have been improved and added over the course of the year, which is always good to see. Let's go with some sound improvements again then. And a very meme-worthy game. I think this was only added the year before anyway. But Philco's The Destroyer from Jail gained the sound sample emulation.
The Destroyer from Jail.
So now it has speech and it says The Destroyer from Jail, like that. And it has like sound effects for the guns and all sorts of other bits and pieces.
1003, follow me.
I think devices can add dips, so if the soft list adds a device, then maybe. So you get some terrible voice acting.
Kidding yourself.
Don't be kidding yourself. Yes. Now this is a quite buggy game. Far too ambitious for what Philco really had the budget to do. And one of Philco's last games, if not their last game. But yes, previously the emulation lacked the samples, so you didn't get a lot of this death screams and the speech in the intro. That was added over the course of the year, making this rather meme-worthy game even more meme-worthy, if not just for that intro speech alone. Only for mappers that have exactly one cart. Yeah, unfortunately it's not an area of MAME I've really looked into myself, and I don't know what the correct solution would be. I mean, I'd still quite like layouts in general to be able to reference segments in other files so you're not copying and pasting as much, but that doesn't happen either. I'd like some of the soft lists themselves to reference template cartridge types rather than duplicating a lot of the things, but that doesn't happen. And then they say there's the whole artwork issue. Vectrex needs it as much as anything because every game had an overlay, and I think the existing Vectrex files are just, you know, every game art in one file and choose it from a drop, you know, choose it from the video option which game you're using. Not ideal. Now, obviously, I'm not very good at this game. You can one credit clear this game if you manage your lives and manage the time and you know, lose lives at strategic moments. You know, don't lose lives when you don't need to. But you have to work around certain issues the game has to one credit clear it. But I'm mainly demonstrating the sound improvement where the speech and, you know, the death screams and everything work. Now the hardware for this one is actually a modified and slightly enhanced version of Sega's System 16 boards of all things, but Philco did like to kind of do that. Their Tetris games and Snap are again on very System 16 like hardware, but in those cases without any sprites. This does have sprites. The Philco Lock-On again is kind of derived from System 16 hardware, but with higher colour tiles. That game's an obvious. Well, that enemy behaviour seemed perfectly normal, didn't it? That's what I mean about this game. It's quite buggy. Yes. I think you get the idea from this one. I think the most entertaining part is still the intro, so let's just reset it.
The destroyer from jail. 1003. Follow me.
Phil Co left the game industry in '91 and worked as a construction company called On Gok that went out of business in '93. If the things they constructed were as well built as their games, maybe the buildings didn't really survive for very long. I mean, I like the ambition, but yeah, everything Phil Co is very, very janky. Also, games industry to construction is quite the leap. Yes, the Destroyer from jail has had sound, speech and everything added in the last year. Bootlegs are fun. I kind of always wonder if... I think it's going to be quite loud. We'll see. I always kind of wonder if there's an original Konami version of, Guttang Gottong on Galaxian type hardware, because the codebase doesn't necessarily seem like that you'd usually find in a bootleg board, and obviously the original was not on Galaxian type hardware. However, one of the things I did over the course of the year was improve the emulation of this. And this is actually a new set that was dumped too. A bit loud. This set is a new set that was dumped. The one I improved at the time actually has a bad graphic ROM, but this new set was dumped, which has the original Konami copyright intact, rather than recreate off Franco. And this one also has non-corrupt graphics. This is not good. No, bad. This one doesn't have corrupt graphic ROMs either, which is kind of handy. What am I doing? Didn't say I was good at this. I'm very out of practice at this one. Where on earth am I going? What's wrong with the sound? It's perfectly fine. Nothing at all wrong with the sound here. So we need to get you on this route here. Oh, I crashed. So as you can see, I'm fantastic at this game. For some reason I've got 6 credits. I think maybe the defaults are maybe different to the other set, and that was never considered. As far as slide puzzle games go, I don't despise this one. I'm not a big fan of slide puzzle games. But I can acknowledge this one is not awful. I'm probably awful at this one. There we go. That should be me done. There we go. A perfect clear. Yeah, well, you know what I'm like with slide puzzle games, Bob. Not really my thing, but I like what they've done here. I think it's actually a good concept. I find this to be a fascinating bootleg in the sense that it does feel like it must be based on some undumped original on this type of hardware, but I could be wrong. Maybe the bootleggers just did a really good job, unlike me. And they've actually managed to make a bootleg that is of a respectable quality. Or maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. So I always wanted to go up at the junction there, but I don't know how you actually make it go up at the junction there. Maybe you can't. Oh dear, I should have moved that piece. So yeah, Galaxian Hardware bootlegs of this game. So the original bootleg was a Recreator Franco one, which I fixed the banking and everything else. And this one was a dump from the sheet. I think both came from Spain though, which might indicate the bootlegs were all made in Spain. And maybe there is no original version on this type of hardware, but who knows. At least it works now, at least the sprites are correct, at least you can play it. One I didn't really cover because it doesn't work. Very early Sun Electronics Gifu Tokai game, which unfortunately probably contains quite a few discrete components, is GT Block Challenger, which is sort of a breakout type game. You mentioned it before, but there's Happy Trails on Intellivision. First type of game like that from your childhood. Yeah, I think you mentioned it before. I always forget these things. Intellivision is one of those where I need to do a stream at some point. Maybe I'll look through the software list and my memory will be jogged and I will play that one. Anyway, the problem with this one is, well, you can see the collisions don't work. And a super breakout game where the collisions don't work is kind of difficult to play. Collisions work against that thing or something there, but not against your bat. See, no collisions. Locomotion also has an official Intellivision port. So yeah, while this is a very... the collision worked there at the very edge, or something sent it back up, but not in general. I really don't know. Anyway, you can see what it worked there. Well, no, this is a track mode. So I'm just pretending it works by putting the bat in the right place. Well, there you go. In game, it really doesn't work. So yeah, I like to see these things done, but this one needs figuring out. Otherwise, it's not playable, which is why I never covered it when it was dumped. So, moving on. There's still plenty to cover. There's still plenty I've not looked at all. I guess I should mention these ones. I've covered these before. Warning sound is going to be awful. The Hyper Neo Geo emulation did get a bit of attention over the course of the year, including notable improvements to the Samurai Showdown games. You did see screenshots of the prototype version. Yeah, those early versions do have the different font as well, so it could be bootleg from Prototype. You're right, Aussie guy. So yeah, while the audio's still awful, these do have 3D now that doesn't just flicker all the time. I mean, it doesn't quite run at full speed, unfortunately, but before the 3D would flicker every frame and they would look truly awful. Now the 3D doesn't flicker and they're somewhat playable. I mean, if I set the frame skip to 6 on this machine, it runs at full speed. The video really needs optimizing. You can see the visuals are a lot more stable than they used to be. And I know a lot of people want to see Hyper Neo Geo 64 progress, and there was some of that over the course of the year. The driving games also improved a bit too, with clipping issues fixed, some sorting priority issues were fixed in places too. Nothing major that's elevated things to super player or really good status, but little changes are always nice to see. It's a shame the prototype version of the Samurai Showdown game didn't get dumped over the course of the year. That just seems to have... everything's gone silent about that. It was discovered, then the person with it said they were going to get it dumped or dump it themselves or something, and then nothing. I kind of hope they didn't just end up destroying it by wanting to do it themselves, but who knows? I'm still not to this day entirely convinced the audio ROMs are correctly dumped on these, though. I couldn't seem to decode some of the samples properly. But I wonder if maybe they're half size, or, you know, word mode, not byte mode. I really don't know. Or it could just be that I don't understand the sample format, which, given my lack of understanding of sound emulation in general, is more likely. But there you go, so you can win a few fights. There's still a bit of sticky 3D there. These are far, far, far from perfect. Blending issues where they're meant to cut mask effects, and I guess SNK wanted to get on board with the 3D fad, but unlike the Neo Geo, which wasn't really the strongest hardware in the world, I don't think they quite realised that not having the strongest 3D hardware was a death sentence for the hardware. As Sega kind of found with STV, which was a 2D platform used for 3D rather than a proper 3D platform. I don't think it's as bad as some people say, though. The driving games look pretty good on real hardware. This one doesn't look that great, but it's one of the earlier games, and it is full 3D environments, which is more impressive than, say, some of the PlayStation stuff. But by this point, you know, Naomi was on the horizon. That was your real competitor. By the time Naomi came out, this really wasn't going to hold up. Beast Busters is playable start to finish. There's just lots of priority glitches and problems that are very annoying. Another SNK game that improved over the years was Mechanized Attack, but to show that fix I'd have to get to quite late on in the game, and there's not really time. In fact, we're over 3 hours now, so I'll probably be ending this quite shortly. I might look at one more plug and play and then call it for the stream. I know there's other things to cover. I've not covered the C2 hacked up prototypes. I've not covered some of the Clones Armadillo Racing World version, Twin B, Magical Twin B World version. The progress that was made on Rolling Extremes, which is quite nice to see. There are Ixion priorities which were fixed. I've played Ixion a few times. Ixion is a fantastic game, but I have played it a few times. I don't think I need to play it again. Anyway, Samurai Showdown 64, so that did improve over the course of the year. Konami's Jetwave is another 3D one I've not looked at, but shall we end with a plug and play? Really, I should be looking at the DreamWorks one, but it's not the one I had in mind. The DreamWorks one is very good, but I wanted to look at a bit of Dora the Explorer, because everybody wants to see a bit of Dora the Explorer, don't they? So, product that looks very dated these days is the Dora the Explorer TV phone, which is one of the times VTech ventured into producing standalone plug and plays rather than just things for the V Smile. Yeah, you see, I mean, these do have some pretty good art. They're well drawn, and apart from the Sonic Popcorn video, the most popular videos on this channel are all the Dora plug and plays I've uploaded, which I find really, really surprising. Hyper Neo Geo is 480i, Mr. At Evan. Unfortunately, it does have quite nasty interlacing artifacts on real hardware.
For my favorite food, bananas. Okay. Oh, and my my most favorite.
So yeah,
First,
all that stuff.
we need to go to the big
So yeah, we can go there.
bananas.
Then we can move along.
Look,
But you can see the appeal to kids in this one. I mean, it's very linear. There's not much to it. Once you've seen all the scenes, you've seen all the scenes. But clearly, kids like this.
we need to put the ice cream bars into the right boxes.
Yeah, I think the same people rewatch the Dora videos all the time. So yeah, she'll call you, and there's a physical phone here which will now be ringing. And the idea is that you lift the handset to answer the phone.
Will you help us put the ice cream bars into
So
the right
you get this.
boxes?
She'll be talking on the phone to you, and
Jen, help me
then
match
you get the
ice cream bar
mini-game.
wrapper with the color of the label on each box. Move the joystick to choose and press enter when you're done.
It's a nice little novelty product. Very much, you know, a product of the time.
Yellow.
I mean, it's the phone itself looks really dated now because obviously phones have changed a lot. Most people don't even use landlines anymore. So to have a landline phone is probably not something a lot of kids are even going to be seeing now.
Fantastico.
You'd probably rather play Shudu. I mean, yeah. Was that a cow in the background there? I think it might have been.
Yellow. Great.
Here comes some more ice cream bars.
So yeah, it's just choosing the right colour box. It's a simple learning exercise. Now I could have also covered the software list editions for the actual V Smile because there've been a lot of those, especially regional ones. There's a whole bunch of, say, Netherlands releases included in the software list over the years, which again is pretty good to see because most of these were somebody's childhood. And a lot of people don't care about them, so the fact that there are people trying to track down all the different V Smile releases and get them all documented when a lot of people just bin them, it's good to see.
Great sorting.
Yum, yum, yum.
Thanks for helping. Gracias.
Now the audio quality is not the best, but that I don't know if that's the game or the Sun Plus emulation, which we know isn't perfect on the audio for some formats. But no, it's a recognised match sounds to other things.
The noisy forest.
You get the idea. But there's been a few of those. There's that one, the TV Adventure Globe, and yeah, there's been a few of those emulated over the years, including a German version of the TV Adventure Globe. And with the TV Adventure Globe, we know there were quite a few versions of it undumped. Again, every country had their own sort of version. I think there's probably a Spanish release, there's a Dutch release, there's all sorts. And yes, Bob, I'm sure you are helping with the numbers on the Dora videos. So they're consistent, which is good. I mean, it must keep the channel looking active to YouTube if lots of people watch the Dora videos. So fingers crossed we see more Dora things dumped so that I can make videos of them. Although I don't know how many more there are actually. Maybe we'll just have to make Dora videos for all the V-Smile games. Anyway. So there are plenty of other things I could have been looking at, but I think over the course of this stream and the previous stream, I've looked at quite a few improvements and additions to MAME over the last year. I could do maybe a shorter hour and a half stream of some of the other bits and pieces I've not got around to. We'll see after I've tidied up these lists, because obviously for things like the Namco sound fixes, I could also look at Lucky and Wild and Steel Gunner 2, where the gun sound now plays. And then there are a couple of things that just don't work properly yet that are still interesting. Some dance mats where the sound generation is probably entirely in some other chips that can't be dumped. Some bad MSI plug and plays. Some e-camera cartridges that don't quite work yet. A few more electronic games. I think we've done a lot of the major arcade ones. Knuckle Joe video fix might have been nice to look at. Yeah, maybe there's enough for a short little extra stream. But for now, I think I will be calling the stream because it's getting on for 11 o'clock here. More juice box, says Bob. I don't want to play too much juice box because they are video clips, and I mean I didn't get any copyright IDs on the ones I played, but I did only play about 10 seconds of them. So, and Cow's been playing too much Midnight Run. Is Midnight Run replacing Final Lap as your favourite game, Cow? Or is that not the case? But anyway, yeah. Thank you to everybody who's been here. Thank you for the chat and the little facts and everything. People dropping by, the conversation you've been having between yourselves. It's always good to see. And say it's not the end of the year yet. There's still potential things that could happen in MAME over the rest of this month that I may not even know about. People might be saving a few surprises for the end of the month, but that doesn't really happen that much these days. So, in terms of a yearly summary, if I don't do another stream on the, looking back at the year, then I guess I'll say that I hope we'll be seeing many more improvements in the coming year. I don't know what they'll be. Say the number of things that can potentially happen is getting smaller all the time, but people do like to surprise us, so we'll see. Many times I'm surprised too. So, good night, everybody. Take care. Thank you for being here, and I will catch you hopefully on the next one. And no problem, Aussie guy. No problem at all.